Dear friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Nitesh Goyal from DAV College, Chandigarh. I am going to present before you the 11th module titled Types of Research under the paper Tourism and Hospitality Research. You will be able to know the different types of research that can be conducted by a researcher for the problem at hand. So before beginning, first of all I would like to give you a brief introduction about the topic. Till now we have understood some of the basic concepts of the research and the role and contribution of research in the field of tourism and hospitality. At this point of time, it becomes pertinent to understand the various types of research that may be conducted by a researcher. It should always be kept in mind that no two researches are same and thus should not be conducted in the same manner. Every research has a different set of objectives and is being sponsored by a different type of sponsor. Now, since the researchers are different, their objectives are different, and the sponsors that are sponsoring the project or the research are also different, the way of conducting the research should also be different. Thus, this module presents before the students a set of different types of research that can be conducted by a researcher. Now we'll take one by one the different types of research. Now friends, research can be classified on the basis of purpose, time, methodology, etc. However, one can broadly classify research as basic applied research, or there are some other types of research also. These are first, the basic or the pure research. Now, the research for the sake of enhancing knowledge is termed as the basic research. Basic or pure research is done with the intention of overpowering the unknown. It is an intellectual exploration, and the outcome of such research may or may not have any practical relevance. It is primarily concerned with the development and the formulation of theories and further the generalizations. Basic research is designed to add to an organized body of scientific knowledge and does not necessarily produce results of immediate practical value. Such a research is time and cost intensive. However, the relevance of basic research cannot be undermined. A research which may not appear to have future utility may come up with the most startling and unexpected results of high value. Basic research is also known as fundamental research. Gathering knowledge for the knowledge's sake is termed as pure or basic or the fundamental research. Research concerning some natural phenomena or relating to pure mathematics are some of the examples of fundamental or the basic research. Similarly, the research studies concerning the behavior of human beings carried on with a view of making generalizations about human behavior are also the examples of this basic type of research, that is the fundamental or pure research. The second classification is the descriptive research. Descriptive research includes survey methods and fact-finding of different kinds. The major purpose of this kind of research is describing the present state of affairs as it exists. This type of research is commonly used in social science and business research. The main feature of this method of research or this type of research is that the researcher has no control over the variables. The researcher can only report what has already happened or what is presently happening. Most of such research projects are used for descriptive studies, where the researcher seeks to estimate the items like frequency of trading, the preferences of customers, or similar data. These studies also include attempts made by the researchers to discover the causes, even when they cannot control the variables. The methods of research utilized in descriptive research are survey methods of all the kinds, which may include the comparative and correlational method. The third type of research can be termed as the analytical or the empirical research. In analytical research, on the other hand, unlike the descriptive research, the researcher uses facts or information that is already available and then analyze to make a critical evaluation of the material. This is a database research in which the primary or the first-hand data is collected and the data is analyzed and subject to hypothesis testing. It is often referred to as an experimental research. The researcher tries to manipulate the independent variables within the research design set by him and then study its effect on the variables under study. The findings from such a research are extrapolated to hold true for the world at large. For example, we may study the effect of a depreciating dollar on Indian export industry. For this purpose, we would first establish a relationship between the dollar and export earnings using the available theoretical concepts. Thereafter, a sample of export units might be selected and the study is systematically conducted. The findings derived from the sample export units would hold true for the whole population, that is, for the entire export sector. Such a research is called as an empirical research. The empirical research relies on experience or observation alone, often without due regard for the system and theory. It is data-based research, coming up with the conclusions which can be verified by observation or the experiment. It can also be called as experimental research. In such kind of a research, it is important to get the facts first hand and actively to go about doing certain things to stimulate the production of desired information. In such a research, the researcher must first provide himself with a working hypothesis. The next step is to get enough data to prove or disprove the formulated hypothesis. Then the experimental designs are set up as found prudent by the researcher himself. Such research is thus characterized by the researcher's control over the variables under study and the researcher's intentional manipulation of one of them to study its effects. Empirical research is appropriate when proofs are sought that certain variables affect other variables in some way. Proofs gathered through experiments or empirical studies is considered to be the most powerful support for a given hypothesis. The fourth type of research can be termed as the applied research. Research can also be categorized as applied or action research. The objective of conducting an applied research is to find a solution for an immediate problem facing a society or a business organization. However, research aimed at certain conclusions, say a solution, facing a concrete social or business problem is an example of applied research. Research to identify social, economic, or political trends which may possibly affect a particular institution, or research to find out whether certain communications will be read and understood, or the marketing research or the evaluation research are few examples of applied research. Thus, the primary objective of applied research is to discover a solution for some practical problem, whereas the first category, that is the basic research, was directed towards exploring information that has a broad base of applications and thus adds to the already existing organized body of the scientific knowledge. The applied or practical research is also termed as need-based research, having high practical relevance. The goal of applied research in terms of adding to the scientific knowledge base acquires a secondary position. The basic aim of such research is to find solutions to the problems being faced by the society, government, or the business. Since this type of research is specific in nature, is a result oriented, and is driven by a clear aim, the time and the cost factors are well planned and also well budgeted. Another form of applied research is action research. The difference between the applied and action research is that the former may be taken by a researcher to find the results for a problem being faced by a third party. However, action researcher has a condition attached that the researcher is also the practitioner or one of the party. Hence, action research is being undertaken by a researcher to improve upon his own practices. The fifth category can be the quantitative research. The quantitative research is based on the measurement of quantity. It is applicable to the phenomena that can be expressed in terms of quantity. It involves the measurement of a phenomena in terms of the quantity, or say the quantitative terms. The results of such a research are subject to intensive quantitative and statistical analysis. An example of this kind of research is a study conducted to find out the proportion of school students using self-driven vehicles for commuting to school for a given area. Another example of the quantitative research is the survey conducted to document the demographic profile of an area and establish patterns between various factors like income, residential area, education, job profile, etc. Many a times, a debate is carried out about the utility of qualitative research vis-a-vis the quantitative research. The social scientists have often debated upon the correct approach for social research. However, it has been seen that there is an interdependence between the two. The qualitative research often looks towards the quantitative data to support their theories, and the quantitative research often looks for support in the existing theory. This is how they are interdependent. Now let's take a detailed look on the qualitative research. So as the name suggests, it deals with the qualitative phenomena generally involving the study of human behavior. Such a research tries to measure the attitudes and opinions of the people using the technique of interview and observation. Various projective techniques like thematic appreciation test, word association test, the sentence completion test may be used. Such a research is also called as motivation research. An example of this kind is the opinion surveys being carried out by a firm so as to find out the response of the customers to its product and advertisement using any of the above mentioned techniques. The qualitative research is needed in situations where it is not possible to quantify the phenomena and the responses are going to be of subjective nature. The qualitative research is actually concerned with the qualitative phenomena, that is, the phenomena relating to quality or kind. For example, when a researcher is interested in investigating the reasons for human behavior, that is, why people do certain things, we often talk of the motivation research, an important type of qualitative research. As already told you, this type of research focuses on discovering the underlying motives and desires, taking the help of in-depth interviews for the purpose. Attitude or opinion research, that is, the research designed for finding out how people feel or what they think about a particular condition or situation, is also the qualitative research. Qualitative research is especially important in the behavioral sciences, where the objective is to discover the underlying motives of human behavior. Through such research, various factors are analyzed which motivate people to behave in a specific manner or which make people like or dislike a thing. However, it can be stated that to apply qualitative research in practice is comparatively a difficult job, and therefore, while doing such research, one should seek guidance from experimental psychologists. The next category is the conceptual research. It is a research that is related to some abstract ideas or a theory. It is generally used by philosophers and thinkers to develop new concepts or to reinterpret the existing ones. The eighth category, one-time research or the longitudinal research. In the former case, that is the one-time research, the research is confined to a single and specified time period, whereas on the other hand, in case of longitudinal research, it is carried on over several time periods or which is not confined to a specific time period. The longitudinal research is generally spread over a long period of time. In this kind of study, the problem or the phenomena is studied over a consecutive stretch of time. For example, in marketing research, a panel of potential consumers can be chosen. They are subject to variations in the advertisement to judge the most effective advertisement campaign, and their purchasing behavior is recorded after the exposure to each advertisement. Conclusive results are obtained after observing their behavior over a considerable stretch of time. Some of the other types of research. All other types of research are variations of one or more of the above explained different approaches or types, which are based on either the purpose of research or the time required to accomplish research, on the environment in which the research is done, or even on the basis of some other similar factor. Research can as well be understood as clinical or diagnostic research. Such research follows case study methods or in-depth approaches to reach at the basic causal relations. Such studies usually penetrate into the causes of things or the events that interests the researcher, using small samples and very deep probing data gathering devices. The research may be exploratory or it may be formalized. The objective of exploratory research is the development of hypotheses rather than their testing. Whereas the formalized research studies are those with substantial structure and with specific hypotheses to be tested. There is another type, that is the historical research. Historical research is that which utilizes historical sources like documents, remains, etc. to study the events or the ideas of the past, including the philosophy of persons and groups at any remote point of time. Research can also be classified as conclusion oriented and decision oriented. While doing conclusion oriented research, a researcher is free to pick up a problem, redesign the inquiry as he proceeds and is prepared to conceptualize as he wishes. Decision oriented research is always for the need of a decision maker, and the researcher in this case is not free to embark upon the research according to his own inclination. Operations research is an example of decision oriented research, since it is a scientific method of providing executive departments with a quantitative basis for the decisions regarding the operations under their control. Also, the research can be field setting research or the laboratory research or the simulation research, depending upon the environment in which it is carried out. As the word simulation suggests, this research involves the creation of an artificial environment which is very similar to the real environment. Thereafter, within this artificial environment, the variables are manipulated and then studied. For example, in order to study the consumer's spending behavior, he can be given say 1000 rupees and his buying behavior can be recorded in an outlet very similar to an actual retail environment. Simulation research thus permits us to observe the dynamic behavior of the consumer under the controlled conditions. So friends, now it's time to summarize the module. The present module discusses the various types of research that can be conducted by a researcher for the problem at hand. The module has presented almost 10 different types of research. These types of research are: firstly, the basic research, which is designed to add to an organized body of scientific knowledge and does not necessarily produce the results of immediate practical value. Secondly, the descriptive research, which is aimed at describing the present state of affairs as it exists. This type of research is commonly used in social sciences and business research. The next category, analytical or empirical research, which is actually a data-based research in which the primary or say first-hand data is collected and the data is then analyzed, which is subject to hypothesis testing. The fourth category is the applied research. It is aimed at certain conclusions or the solutions facing a concrete social or business problem, is an example of applied research. The applied or practical research is also termed as need-based research, having high practical relevance. The next is the quantitative research. It is based on the measurement of quantity. It is applicable to the phenomena that can be expressed in terms of quantity. Now, in comparison to quantitative research, there is qualitative research, which is concerned with qualitative phenomena, generally involving study of human behavior. Such a research tries to measure the attitudes and opinions of the people using the technique of interview and observation. The seventh category is the conceptual research. It is a research that is related to some abstract ideas or a theory. The next category was the one-time research or the longitudinal research. In the former case, that is the one-time research, the research is confined to a single and specified time period, whereas in case of longitudinal research, it is carried over several time periods or which is not confined to a specific time period. And lastly, we had other different types of research like clinical or diagnostic research, historical research, conclusion-oriented research, field setting research, laboratory research, simulation research. The researcher may choose any of the mentioned types of research depending upon the objectives and other requirements of the study. Thank you.